Harry's trip started with an unusually transparent statement to his friends at the Telegraph about plans to see his father, King Charles. A spokesperson for Harry told the publication, in response to the many inquiries and continued speculation on whether or not the Duke will meet with his father while in the UK this week, it unfortunately will not be possible due to His Majesty's full program. The Duke, of course, is understanding of his father's diary of commitments and various other priorities and hopes to see him soon. End statement. Well, that's interesting to me that Prince Harry would be worried about speculation. Where was this drive to shut down speculation when Obed Scobie's endgame leaked and Meghan and Harry's favorite reporter accused the King and Princess of Wales of racism? Or are we still calling it unconscious bias? Not too worried about speculation then. To most of us, this was a complete 180, unless you live and die by the Daily Beast sources who, to be fair, said King Charles would be too busy to meet with Prince Harry weeks ago. However, to clarify, some of the other stories up there lately have been kind of sus. If you know, you know. Of course, we were hearing from both camps as of last week that the King and Prince Harry wanted to see each other, and a brief reunion was likely in the cards. So what happened? And are Harry's new PR gurus trying to seize the pity press for some positive headlines? I've heard two conflicting reports. One is that there were negotiations that took place about the time, location, and logistics, who would be in the room during the meeting, some questioning whether Prince Harry rejected the idea of seeing Queen Camilla. To counter that report, I've heard that Prince Harry never formally reached out to try to secure a spot in his father's calendar. And I know that Katie Nichol disagreed with me on Airs and Spares about this, but there were numerous articles published over the last few weeks suggesting that Prince Harry might skip the event because he has certain demands when it comes to his security and would not appear unless those were agreed upon. The palace isn't going to wait for another one of Harry's tantrums to end so that they know whether or not to lock in a moment with his cancer-stricken father. Put on your big boy pants, Harry.
Talk about Princess Kate, because the last time we spoke, Kinsey, the internet had gone into some sort of crazy meltdown. This "where is Kate?" And well, of course, we knew exactly where she was. She was at home in Windsor, recovering from clearly major surgery and being looked after by her family and getting herself well again. But she has now been photographed. So over here in the UK, we chose not to publish these pictures because we have very different privacy laws to the US. This was an unauthorized paparazzo picture taken in the grounds of Windsor Great Park. It is an open public park, but the princess has a right to privacy. And so for that reason, the British newspapers haven't published it. We chose not to publish those pictures in Vanity Fair, but other US news websites did. I think I'm correct in saying it broke first of all on the TMZ website. Page 6 have subsequently picked it up. It's a pretty grainy image. I think the princess clearly not aware that she's being photographed. She's wearing dark glasses. She's in the passenger seat of an Audi car being driven by her mother, Carol Middleton. Of course, they're being picked over and poured over. But I think probably the most important thing to say about them is, these were not authorized pictures. The princess has asked that her recovery be kept completely private. But I do think off the back of a week where you and I, Kinsey, were discussing all of those crazy internet rumors that were doing the rounds after William pulled out of his godfather's memorial service and speculation that this might have been about Kate, I think there's probably something quite reassuring for most people that, she's clearly okay. She's well enough to be out in a car being taken for a drive. But, as far as the palace is concerned, these are intrusive pictures. They've not sanctioned them in any way, and you won't be seeing them, as I say, in any UK newspaper.
Well, I'm glad that you said that, because some of the rumors, because they're not stopping, circulating here in the States on social media are that these were staged photos. And I'm like, I can't in my wildest dreams imagine the Princess of Wales picking up the phone and staging a paparazzi shot. I've said it a couple of times this week in regards to Kate, but I feel like the Sussexes and their strategies and their media tactics have warped our expectations when it comes to real working royals. The Princess of Wales, and even the Prince of Wales, those are not two individuals that are ever going to pick up the phone and stage a paparazzi shot. They have a system, they work with media, and if and when they are ready to, I believe we're going to see the Princess of Wales in a working capacity around Easter. She's going to come out, do the smiles and waves, and it's going to be, the same protocol that we've been used to over the last few years. But I'm glad that you've said that because I noticed that I look at tomorrow's papers today or whatever every night before I go to bed to see what's on the cover of UK papers, and it was all Kate's uncle, and I was surprised that I didn't see that photo. So thank you for telling me that that's because of UK's privacy laws. That's new information to me. But don't forget, TMZ is also the outlet that released the pictures of Prince Harry's crazy Vegas rump. And then there was the debate over in the UK as to whether or not to print those photos, and inevitably they decided to do that. TMZ, a lot of royal scoops, surprisingly, for a Hollywood gossip blog. James Hewitt, Princess Diana's ex-lover, he kept 64 letters that she wrote during their affair. The now infamous affair, it lasted 5 years between 1986 and 1991. According to The Sun, he's had representatives approach auction houses about the idea of selling these 64 letters. Now, they are believed to be worth approximately £1 million. I guess $1 million, since he's looking to sell them in the States. Hewitt is rumored to have previously offered the letters as collateral for a $500,000 loan. After leaving the army in 1994, I know you remember this, he absolutely wreaked havoc on Princess Diana's personal life by collaborating on that book, Princess in Love. He was allegedly paid over £300,000 for sharing details of that relationship. And then, do you remember the tacky TV movie? And I call it tacky, although I admit I've watched it on multiple occasions. In the past, Hewitt actually argued to Larry King that he felt like these letters deserved to be circulated wider all over the world because they were important historical documents. There were even rumors at the time that Prince William would purchase them just to make them go away. Now, a spokesperson for James told The Sun on Sunday that Heritage Auctions were approached on the behalf of a representative of James Hewitt solely to value and authenticate the letters for personal reasons and insurance purposes, that he has no intention to sell. But because he's flip-flopped in the past, I don't know what to believe. Last I heard he was living with his mother, but I do think that this is something that could bring extreme emotional stress to not only Prince William, but Prince Harry here as well.
I think they're probably both hoping that James Hewitt and those letters just disappear, never to be seen again. And they will feel deeply disappointed that anyone connected to their mother is cashing in on her memory, a memory that they're trying very hard to preserve with love and with dignity. So yes, I can imagine that for the boys, anytime a story like this comes up, and whether he has just had them, valued for insurance purposes or not, it's just a reminder, isn't it, that the past is, when it comes to their mother, never that far away for them.
Absolutely. He's become kind of a cartoon character over here. With Diana the musical, there was a big musical number where he was on a horse. It's kind of become much more of a joke than this romantic story he tried to paint in Princess in Love. What is his reputation there? Has he done reality TV and some of the weird things some of those characters have done over there that have been associated with Diana?
Well, he hasn't got a particularly good reputation over here. I think he's seen as a has-been, as someone who's really tried to cash in on Diana's memory. I can't think of any big TV shows or anything that he's done recently. To be honest, Kinsey, this is the first I've heard of Hewitt, or a story regarding Hewitt, for some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we briefly touched on this maybe a week or two ago, but things seem to be progressing when it comes to this Prince Harry immigration paper case. As you know, the Heritage Foundation is suing the government because they want access to Prince Harry's paperwork to determine whether or not he was given special treatment when he came over to the United States. Well, a federal judge has ordered the Department of Homeland Security to submit documents related to Prince Harry's visa for that judge to review after the department refused to release them to the Heritage Foundation under the Freedom of Information Act. I think that I'm very intrigued by this case. Obviously, I've never seen anything like it before. Do you think that Prince Harry's comments to Good Morning America about considering becoming a citizen could hurt him in a judge's eyes? Looking at these documents, is that judge going to say, well, the American public should know whether or not he was truthful in his application to come over here?
Well, I think more than the comments he made to ABC are the passages that he wrote in Spare about his drug taking and his his drug taking past. So yes, I think he's probably not overly concerned, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, possibly might be a bit more concerned if Trump gets in. But I think at the moment, this is a sort of story that continues to surface, and I think it possibly has got legs. But I think the idea of Harry and Meghan, well, not Meghan, obviously, but Harry sort of being booted out of the States, I think it's pretty unlikely. But perhaps he might have wanted to have considered what he said in Spare more carefully, not just about his drug-taking past, but perhaps some of the things he revealed about his family, because he may then find himself not the subject of scrutiny over his visa application, but also perhaps a little closer to his family than he is today.
When we first saw the affair rumors circulating between 2018 and 2019, Richard Kay, a personal friend of Princess Diana's and a journalist, observed that the rumors were an attempt to, quote, dent Kate's unshakable standing with the public. Initially, reports claimed a rift had opened up between Catherine and her Norfolk neighbor, Lady Rose Hanbury. One paper reported that the two women had had a terrible falling out. Another paper said that Kate wanted her rural rival phased out of their group of friends. Now, tongues were wagging. Lady Rose is a former model. Her husband significantly older than she is. Prince William's father, famous for an affair that ended his marriage to the most popular woman in the world, Princess Diana. So while some of the papers didn't blatantly report an affair, it was the immediate assumption. Why else would two women be at war? Richard Kay insisted within a column in the Daily Mail that rumors of the falling out were false. As evidence, he pointed out that Lady Rose and Princess Catherine were patron and royal patron of the same children's hospice, and that the Duchess at the time utilized Rose's horse trails for activities with the children. Meanwhile, Rose's husband and Prince William were apparently shooting buddies, and, quote, both men were baffled by the rumors and insisted there is no rift between them or their wives. People within the know really felt like this was a campaign to hurt the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, who are now the Prince and Princess of Wales. Harry and Meghan were still very much in the fold, and there were rumors that Meghan leaked these stories to journalists to prove her point that the palace made an effort to protect Kate and not Meghan herself, which is an argument we saw Meghan make during her Oprah Winfrey interview. To piggyback off of that, or to almost give the Meghan Association some credibility, the cheating accusations first appeared in an American magazine, one that Meghan had voluntarily appeared in many times before, which is why Meghan was one of the main suspects of that rumor circulating. In fact, royal author Tom Bower claims Meghan knew In Touch magazine very well. She had been in the magazine several times when she was trying to be famous and had had drinks with several writers as she worked hard to be noticed. Before she married Harry, Meghan wanted to be in all the weekly magazines and worked with publicists to make that happen. Bower continued, Meghan knows how the system works better than anyone, which is why palace insiders blamed her for the leaks. Tom Bower, who wrote a book on Meghan and Harry called Revenge, also told Megyn Kelly one of the reasons that William was so furious with Meghan was that Meghan seized on a story that William was having an affair with a mutual friend of theirs. Bower claims allegedly Meghan raised that with Kate to needle her, so accused Meghan Markle of confronting Catherine about the affair. And that is part of the reason that Prince William was so incandescent with the Sussexes. Bower told Kelly, Meghan seized on that to harm the woman that she was so jealous of. Now, all the way back in 2019, a family friend told the Daily Mail, "This is a question of a lie going round the world before the truth has even had time to take its boots off. A whisper which had no basis or truth has turned into a roar." Why is this coming up again and now? Because Omid Scobie, who Meghan and Harry collaborated with on a book called Finding Freedom Through a Third Party, released another book called Endgame in November of last year. You'll probably remember that book garnered a lot of attention for accusing the Princess of Wales and King Charles of racism inside the Dutch version. Its sales were dismal and it put a serious dent in Omid's credibility, but in Endgame, Omid, who is known as Harry and Meghan's mouthpiece, resurrected the affair accusations. A November 2023 Entertainment Tonight article reads, "An alleged affair between Prince William and a former bestie of wife Kate Middleton is picking up steam once again after royal expert, LOL, Omid Scobie brought up the subject in his new book, Endgame." The human Alan doll, because let's be honest, he's not a Ken, told Entertainment Tonight, "For legal reasons, there are so many things that one can't go into." Nice try. "But I thought it was really important, even if a rumor is a rumor, and I really don't see proof that there is more to this than just a tittle tattle, you know? Thanks for stirring the pot, Scobie." And with so much mystery surrounding the Princess of Wales, after her planned abdominal surgery, if you're invested in the drama and can comfortably navigate the worst parts of the internet, it is effortless to stumble upon these affair digital debates. Robert Lacey, the author of Battle of Brothers and contributor to Netflix's The Crown, admitted that he spent months trying to confirm any affair rumors, but was unable to verify it. He interviewed Giles Coren. Coren set Twitter on fire about affair allegations, and Coren told Lacey he made it up for attention online. Coren even inevitably released a statement through a newspaper that said every time the story of Prince William's supposed affair with Rose comes around again in the American press, as it has again this week, the first source quoted is always a 2019 tweet from British royal reporter Giles Coren. So can I please just say that while it was far from being the worst thing I ever tweeted, I was joking. I know nothing about the royal family. I'd had a boozy lunch. Author Tina Brown hasn't been able to confirm the affair rumors, and neither has Tom Bauer or Richard Kay. Kay reported that initially Rose and Catherine's families both laughed at the patently not true rumors, but as more and more people pass it on, it takes on a life of its own and has evolved into something hurtful and toxic. A family friend of Rose specifically said, "It has now become very upsetting, and they are all concerned for each other, as they have never before had to start denying something for which there is no evidence or even a smidge of truth. It's just mad." But let's talk about Prince William and the Princess of Wales's little Louis, because a lot of us woke up on Wednesday under the impression that we weren't going to get a picture of Prince Louis. Tell us what happened and how the day unfolded.
Yes, it was a happy surprise, really, because usually we do get a bit of a heads up that we're going to get a picture released, and we've all become very used to having these gorgeous pictures of the Wales's children photographed by the Princess of Wales, and we did get a heads up actually just hours before it was published online on their social media channel. So a slightly different way of distributing these images, not to the press first as has happened in the past. And it's a lovely candid shot taken, we're told, by the Princess of Wales at the family's home earlier this week. We haven't got any details about how they will be celebrating. A sixth birthday party, I can imagine, is going to involve friends at some point. Birthday cake, lots of presents, seeing his extended family. Louis very, very close to Kate's parents, his grandparents, Carol and Mike. He spent a lot of time with them over the Easter. So I think it'll be slightly pared down, of course, because Kate's going through treatment at the moment, but they will make sure that this birthday is marked. And I have to say, Kinsey, when it comes to the Waleses, you never see them doing big, ostentatious birthday parties, with ponies and petting zoos and everything else. They tend to keep it really low key, and I'm sure that Kate will have done what she does for every child on every birthday, which is bake the cake and be enjoying that over a family tea party.
So sweet. I love to imagine her in the kitchen. And we've actually seen some of her in the kitchen with the pictures of her and the babies. All, I believe they were cooking cookies or something so cute.
Yeah,
You
she
know,
often has them in the kitchen, and this is obviously a really difficult time for them as a family. Kate's focus is very much on her treatment and her recovery between those treatments, and so of course she's going to be spending a lot more time at home. And so I would imagine that things like baking and spending time with the children will be really, really joyful moments for her, and things that she enjoys and looks forward to, and things that will distract her from the obvious concerns and worries as she goes through what she's going through. I suppose it would be very nice to know that there will be royal visitors for Prince Louis. We know that the King and the Queen are both in Scotland at the moment. They were photographed on April the 21st, leaving church at Crathie Kirk. That was, of course, the late Queen Elizabeth's birthday. So I think it was a sort of private moment to mark that important anniversary. But I'm sure they will be seeing Louis at some point. The King is very, very fond of his little grandson. And I think the nation is too. I mean, Kinsey, there are so many wonderful moments, aren't there, involving Prince Louis, up there usually on the balcony, I don't know, covering his ears, or sort of screaming in mock horror, or doing his double-handed wave. I mean, he's a really gorgeous little boy who I think clearly brings a lot of love and fun into not just the Wales family, but the wider family as well, and enjoys, as I say, a very close relationship with the King.
I just love that scene where Prince William kind of leans over to the King and says, "Do you mind if Louis comes over?" I believe he was perhaps Prince Charles at the time, but Prince William leans over and says, "Do you mind if Louis comes over there?" And then Louis comes running over, jumps in the King's lap, and you could just tell how much he adores his grandfather. And it almost opens us up to a completely different side of King Charles that we didn't even know existed, how just kind of ooey gooey affectionate he is with these babies that are also in love with. So it's so fun to see. Really quickly, I don't want to dwell too much on this, but I am curious to know if you feel like the Waleses are setting new standards, setting new boundaries here with this photo being released on social media, or do you think this is just, the circumstances with everything so difficult that's going on in their lives right now?
I think it's likely to be because of circumstances, and who knew, I suppose, whether the princess would feel up to taking a picture. And so I think at the moment we just have to be perhaps a little bit more open to things happening spontaneously, and perhaps a little differently from usual. But I think the most important thing when you consider the last photo that went out is that we are still going to get these pictures. I remember people being quite concerned after Photogate, which is, of course, that now infamous Mother's Day photograph, which backfired so badly for the Princess of Wales. You'll recall there were all sorts of allegations over digital manipulation, and the princess then took to Twitter to explain that she had carried out some minor alterations via digital editing on that picture. But of course, that just fueled the whole conspiracy rumor that was going into overdrive on the internet about her health at the time. And it did backfire on her very badly. And I think a lot of people were concerned that perhaps that would mean she wasn't going to be so willing to do these sorts of candid family photographs. This one of Louis, we are told, wasn't digitally retouched at all. And I think, that sort of disclaimer is really important to avoid what we've seen in the past. But she gets the most wonderful pictures of her children in a way that other royal photographers simply wouldn't. They may be more technically gifted than the princess, but no one gets the same smiles as the princess when she is behind the lens. And we know Prince George is following in his mother's footsteps as a keen photographer. So I, for one, am delighted that we still get to get those photographs. And it's been quite a busy week already for the Prince of Wales. He's been out and about visiting the England football team ahead of England's first match on Sunday. The Prince had only just actually caught his breath because he'd been taking part in last week's D-Day commemorations, both in Portsmouth, over here in the UK, and in Normandy. And before we talk football, I think we really need to just take a look back at those D-Day commemorations. Kinsey, I'm sure you tuned in and watched from across the pond, right?
Oh, absolutely. And one thing that I wanted to point out to you, and I don't know if you heard the same kind of whispers, but when the Queen first passed, I felt like there was concern about, and of course, no one is ill. The Queen has just passed. The King has become the King. I feel like there were whispers of the King potentially being envious of Prince William's popularity. And over the last week, I have seen such strength and unity and friendship and, just real beauty in the relationship between the King and Prince William. I don't see any of that concern over, jealousy of polling numbers, none of that. It just seems like this is a strong team. Are you feeling the same thing where you are?
I think William and Charles are in terms of their relationship, in a really strong place. I mean, it's not actually that long ago when you consider that there were rumours of a bit of friction between father and son, rumours that perhaps William didn't think everything his father was doing was the right way to be going about things. I mean, I'm thinking about the Prince's Trust and William not wanting to take on the Prince's Trust. He wanted to create his own foundation, which he has done, but very much with a view to consolidating his charity work. And I think we've seen the King sort of doing that. The feeling I get is that they're very much on the same page now. They're very much aligned. And I think that's down to, obviously, the success of the transition. Charles needs William's full support. You've got the King here needing his Prince of Wales, needing his deputy, arguably more than ever, because, of course, he's going through cancer treatment. And as we saw at the D-Day landings, and as we saw at the commemoration of the D-Day landings, that really important 80th anniversary, there was a moment towards the end of that second day where William stood in for his father at a reception for state leaders and presidents, something ordinarily that we would expect to see the monarch at. And instead we saw William. So we saw William flexing his muscle as a sort of statesman on the international world stage and doing really well. And as you say, Kinsey, none of that sense of competition about, this needs to be the King being seen to do this. King was more than happy, on the advice of his medical team, to stand down from that engagement, bearing in mind that he'd done everything at Portsmouth. He'd given a brilliant speech. He'd been there in Normandy, given another excellent speech. He'd been at the most important events. And he was more than happy to sort of hand that event over and allow William to represent him. And I think that says so much about their evolved relationship, about the faith and the trust that the King has in his son and heir as the Prince of Wales. And of course, it gave William an opportunity to, as I say, flex his muscle on the international stage. You've got him shaking hands with all of the prime ministers and the presidents, with Macron and with Zelensky, meeting President Joe Biden. And, that really is, that's elevation for Prince William. That's putting him in a really fundamental role, and obviously with the King's blessing.
Absolutely. And you talk about the King's ridiculous schedule throughout the D-Day events. And we just recently heard that Queen Camilla has said to friends, he's working himself like crazy. Like, he just refuses to take a beat. So it was nice to see Prince William step up and step in for him for a moment, because it does sound like he is just running himself ragged. And I think that that's his work ethic. I think the King has always had an incredible work ethic. I want to touch base with you briefly on the Princess of Wales, because we did hear from her over the weekend, and it was nice to hear from her. She wrote a letter to the Irish Guards apologizing for missing their parade rehearsals on Saturday. Normally she would actually attend this, and she would inspect them before trooping the color, but she has taken some time away from her official duties to treat, it's preventative chemotherapy to treat some form of cancer. In a letter signed by Catherine, she said it was a great honor to be the group's ceremonial leader, and that she hopes to be able to represent, she says, I hope to be able to represent you all once again very soon. I love hearing from her. I know that it was just kind of a brief shout out, but it gives us kind of a sense that she's still here, and she's going to be back in the future.
We know that the Princess of Wales has been spotted since finishing her course of preventative chemotherapy. We saw her up in Scotland for a church service just a few days ago. She went up and had a long weekend with Prince William. But she's also had 2 meetings. The most recent meeting was at Windsor Castle, and all about her very exciting carol concert, which is going to be happening in December. And I think it's a really positive sign that we've got the Princess of Wales attending these meetings. We were given guidance by the palace that she intends to be at the Cenotaph in November. We know we're going to see her for that, as long as she is feeling up to it. She very much wants to be there to support the king and the royal family. And this carol concert is something that she has done now for 4 years. It's the whole theme is about bringing people together. And for her, it's about bringing some of her and William's charities and representatives and people who have helped to serve the community together for this really lovely carol concert, which takes place at Westminster Abbey, which is, of course, very special to William and Kate because it's where they got married. We've become used to seeing not just the couple there, but their young brood as well. Last time they took all 3 children. I'm hearing rumours that that's going to be the plan for this year as well. It's very much a family occasion. You'll see the Middletons there as well. And this has really become very much an annual fixture in the princess's diary. So I wasn't surprised to see that she'd attended a meeting for it. I mean, I would expect her to be doing that because Christmas is actually not that far away. But 2 meetings in 1 week. The first one was to do with the Early Childhood Foundation. I just think Kinsey sends out a really positive message, actually, that she's feeling well enough to host these meetings. Of course, she could be doing it in Zoom, but she's not. She's there in person and she's hosting these meetings. And of course, they're being recorded in the court circular, which is a list of official events carried out by members of the royal family. And it's just so nice to see her name back on the court circular, isn't it?
Well, let me just tell you, you're absolutely right about Christmas being, just around the corner, because I've already started threatening my nephews with Santa Claus is watching. I'm going to tell Father Christmas. I'm already all over that. So you're right.
You haven't even got to Halloween or Thanksgiving yet,
Yeah,
Kinsey.
I know. I wanted to ask you, because you just mentioned how the Middleton family will be there. I've seen what I believe is some unfair commentary about Catherine and William's video announcing that she was no longer going to be pursuing chemotherapy because she was temporarily, in the clear. They're still going to be watching what's to come, and they're still cautious about everything. But I'm seeing unfair criticism that while the palace has reported that the cancer diagnoses for both the king and Catherine brought them together, that it was there was some sort of sinister meaning behind the fact that the king was not featured in their video. I completely disagree. Perhaps he just wasn't comfortable with it. Perhaps their schedules didn't line up. Do you have an opinion on that commentary that has been happening over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not surprising that the king wasn't in the video. I think it's, this was very much Catherine's message to the nation. Her parents have been there every step of the way and very much behind the scenes, and they're sort of keeping the family together. So I was surprised to see the Middletons in it, actually. I would have thought that Kate might just have kept it to her, William, and 3 children. I thought it was lovely that the Middletons were in it, but I don't think we should read too much into the fact that the king wasn't. I think there is clearly a closeness between the 2 of them. I mean, I was told that, in fact, when I mentioned earlier, didn't I, that William and Catherine were seen up in Scotland together going to a church service. Now, I understand that there was a private meeting between the king and William and Catherine, just an opportunity for them to catch up while they were in Scotland. Because, of course, the king is having this extended stay up in Balmoral, to mark the anniversary of his mother's passing, a little like the late Queen used to do when she went up to Sandringham, and William and Catherine went up there without their children. And I think perhaps part of that reason was to spend some time with the king, because, of course, he's got this big trip coming up to Australia and Samoa. So I don't think we should read too much into it that the king wasn't in the video. I think you see enough in terms of the closeness between the king and Catherine to know that it's a really close relationship. I mean, look at the effort that she went to for Troop in the Colour to make sure she could be there for his official birthday parade. And look at that positioning. If you remember back, Kinsey, it was Catherine standing shoulder by shoulder with the king, just because she didn't choose to include him in that video. As you say, it could have been down to scheduling. The king's been in Scotland for the entire summer, and possibly it just wasn't deemed appropriate. But I don't think people should read too much into it. And I think the relationship is a very close one.
I saw the cutest viral video this week, and I haven't seen this story anywhere yet. It was the most precious exchange in this fan video. A little bit of backstory. The Wales family were heartbroken when their beloved dog Lupo died in 2020. Thankfully, the family quickly welcomed a new addition, care of Catherine's brother, James Middleton. In January of 2021, James, who breeds spaniels, gifted the family Orla. The name Orla is Gaelic, that's of Gaelic origin and translates to golden princess. Orla was from a litter of 6 spaniels bred by Catherine's little brother. And this little puppy, deeply adored by the Wales crew. Earlier this month, while Prince William visited Berkeley Community Pool, he made an exciting admission telling a fan who had her own spaniel there, hopefully we'll have puppies soon, adding, it takes a little while. Orla puppies would be a welcomed distraction after a tough year for the Wales children. You know, the beautiful black pup was featured in Princess Charlotte's 7th birthday photos taken by her mother, and famously, most recently, seen throughout that intimate video shot by Will Warr in Norfolk to announce the end of Catherine's preventative chemotherapy treatment. Orla is related to James' beloved pet Ella, late Ella. And you can get Meet Ella, the Dog Who Saved My Life by James Middleton at a bookstore near you. It's available for purchase now. That is so exciting to look forward to. I'm a dog person. I have 4. They're all sleeping around me right now. But for little kids, what an exciting adventure and kind of the coolest thing ever to see.
Well, I think we all know the therapeutic effect of having pets. I have referred to Percy, sometimes his therapy is not the kind of effect you have when he's decided that there's some fresh food to be found around where I live in rural Warwickshire. But there is something very positive about animals being in a household, because they do. And James Middleton actually very revealingly has talked about the positive impact that a dog has had on him as he's battled with depression and his mental issues, and the effect an animal has had on him. And we can see that whether it be guide dogs. You know that dogs are around to act as man's best friend and woman's best friend. They are there for all. You've got 4 of the little things, as you say, dominating your life, no doubt, Kinsey. I have a cat at the moment, but I did have a much beloved a border terrier called Fudge, who sadly passed away at age 16. And, you know, we miss him still. And all people do. If you look after dogs, and you can just go through anywhere, everyone posts about my friend who's been part of my life. And I think it is important that a dog does help. You know, and it's a welcome distraction and great fun for children. You've got to bring them up properly and respectfully and treat them with care, and they will give you all the love back. So hopefully the Orla and the family will be successful. Whether, you know, then obviously some people will have the privilege, presumably, of owning some very nice spaniels. But we all know that dogs have a huge, and pets as a whole, have a hugely therapeutic effect on the well-being of us as humans, and the Waleses are no exception when it comes to this.
Well, I wonder if Queen Elizabeth felt that way, but never really vocalized it, because mental health wasn't necessarily something you spoke about in her generation. You're actually seeing it, people being much more open to discussing mental health today, you know, and when Prince William and Catherine and Harry decided to launch Heads Together, that was kind of a groundbreaking conversation that they were having. But we know Queen Elizabeth, that's my girl, animal hoarder, just like myself.
Yeah, well, her and her corgis and animals, horses were her therapy. Yeah. In many ways. Look, the corgis and animals, but you know that she was often in a happy place when she was around her racehorses or breeding horses in the Sandringham estate, wherever. Horses, right from her childhood, were an integral part of her life. And basically, you know, she said she would have been happier to be around horses all her life. I think we actually have to look at it and say what a positive impact animals have on human beings when you have them at any level. Look, I've just come from the Horse of the Year show, and I can see in the UK, in Birmingham, what horses mean to people. I mean, I see people permanently in tears last week of people who have been winning various events at the Horse of the Year show because of what these horses and ponies mean to them. And, at all levels, all ages. And I think we have to understand that the royal family, it humanizes them. But the Queen was never going to sort of reveal all in a public display of revelation about her sort of how she gets calm and sort of finds a way of letting off steam. We know horses were the Waleses, and indeed Harry, when they were this very powerful threesome going out there advocating on mental health. They were really good. And James Middleton has done his little bit with the fact, but highlighting the significance of pets to his road to recovery. And if he's by contributing as he has done, he will have helped his sister on her road to recovery.
I wasn't going to bring this up, but listening to you talk about how great it was to see them, I'm fired up now. I did stumble upon one outlet, and I won't even give them the benefit of the mention, but they were talking about how at the Southport engagement, William and Catherine looked strained, and could this be signs of something going on in the relationship? And to that, I would say, I can't say it because my grandma will be mad at me. But to that, I would give them I'd give them my favorite finger. And I would also say, if you watch the video.
I'm old enough to be your grandfather here, so please be careful here.
But if you watch the videos, actually what I see is two people that are moving in sync with each other. The way he touches her lower back when they're navigating, the way when he's introduced to someone, he brings her forward to ensure that she's included in the conversation. There are so many visuals to show that this couple is united and that he is worried about her, crazy about her, loves her. And I mean, have some compassion. This woman had cancer. Was close enough to it. Like, it angers me beyond all comprehension to see that conversation happening.
Calm down, Kinsey.
I know.
Right. What I would say, look, I think the stresses and strain is actually having her back out on the road, because we're now, what are we? October. It was January. It was revealed all. So, their Christmas was presumably turned on its head, or the Christmas time, because that's when it all unraveled. So for the last 10 months, they've had to navigate their way through quite a complicated scenario. But to see her away from the sort of traditional comfort zones of where she's been at, King's Birthday Parade, Wimbledon, back out meeting the general public, I think, that's probably, it was a big moment, because they know the eyes of the world are going to be on them. Because the moment they came out together in a non sort of what we might say formal capacity, like we're expecting to see her next month at the Remembrance Day service and on that Sunday in November. That's where you actually have to look back and just say, no, we all know people with cancer. The stresses and strains that it puts on all family members is enormous. And in their case, it's going to be magnified because of the level of focus. So I think, when people do write that kind and say that kind of stuff, you think that might be an element of clickbait.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got to slightly look and be up and beyond and say, he's probably thinking, right, how is she? Because he's the only one, apart from her doctors and probably one or two key members of the family, who know exactly what the situation is. And we shouldn't be speculating. We should just be grateful that she felt well enough in these circumstances to get back out on the road again.
Friends of the royal family admit the extended family members who were invited to Sandringham last year, like Prince Andrew and Fergie, are waiting to see how the king's health holds up in the coming months before making their holiday plans. However, Rupert, the Express reported over the weekend that King Charles and Queen Camilla will resume a full schedule of royal tours next year. A senior palace official has said that the king genuinely loved the 9-day tour of Australia and thrived on the busy program of engagements. They added that it has lifted his spirits, his mood, and his recovery. In that sense, the tour, despite its demands, has been the perfect tonic, quite like your beverage in your hand. So does that make you lean in the direction of a classic royal Christmas? You know, do you think that we probably will see, I mean, I guess you've already answered that question. To me, it doesn't sound like much has changed. We're hearing that the king's doing great. He's planning for the future.
I think it's very important what he did in Australia and Samoa. And as you say, lifted his spirits, because he must be, because he's not someone who likes to sit down much. And his wife has had to, you know, at times obviously put a restraining order on him. So it's not easy. But I think it would have been good for him. He loves Australia. And he does really get his role as head of the Commonwealth. And so for him to be able to do a normal visit, okay, probably a very managed timetable, appreciative of his recovery. And remember, it's the other side of the world, gets their 28-hour flight or something, you know, back from Samoa, back to the UK. So it's not easy. But I think it's the king wants to be out and about. He hates just sitting back. You know, okay, he might be having the odd meeting. He wants to go out and meet people. That's what he thrives on. And I think it has to be seen as a positive influence, that the doctors obviously were there to manage and make sure he was all right. But there seemed to be no indication that he flagged throughout. And it was quite a demanding visit, particularly the Samoan one with the heads of Commonwealth. There was a lot going on there, sort of the soft politics of the king and, you know, all the issues about reparations. And there's a lot of backstory around that. But actually to see the king out and about, I think that's an encouraging sign for all and sundry that he's going to try and get back to business as usual. Bearing in mind, he is 75 or 76. You know, he's not a young man. So even if you are recovering from cancer, you're still physically going to be finding it tougher work than if you were, say, in his 50s. But he's now got a chance to do his kingly duties as he would see fit.
Recent break-in at Windsor Castle. This is very much in our sphere, right, Ted? We talk about things like this all the time on Court TV.
Yeah, this is crime. And it's also more interestingly, like, the criminal mind is so difficult to get your head around, because if I'm going to go steal a pickup truck and some sort of bike, I don't know that I'm going to a royal's castle. There would probably be easier places to steal these items from, but I think it comes back to that mind. It's like, boom, look what we did. And
right.
It's scary. It's scary because as much as we talk about them, and famous people are people, and they have kids, and it had to have been very frightening when they got word of what happened.
Absolutely. All right. So let's kind of briefly discuss what happened. It was around 11:45 p.m. on Sunday, October the 13th, when police received a report of a burglary at a property on Crown Estate land it's about 5 minutes from Prince William and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, on the Windsor estate. So it's not necessarily in that core castle where did you know people actually live in there? Did you know that?
Oh, no.
When you're touring it, they try to, scoot your butt out at a certain time so that people can have like an element of normalcy. Now, the Queen sometimes lived there, but there are other relatives that live in different parts of the castles, and then employees that live in that little sanctuary too. So it wasn't in that little sanctuary area, but it is on the big estate in like this farmhouse where this took place. But it was still 5 minutes from Catherine and Prince William, who were at home with the children. The children were in bed at the time because they had school the next day. Officers say they entered a farm building and made off with a black Isuzu pickup and a red quad bike. And they haven't caught these people. No arrests have been made. I think that obviously if they stole two things, I believe that's two individuals that they're looking for. Maybe I'm just assuming, but pretty scary stuff when you think about the heir to the throne and his children that are also in the line of succession, that they were in the midst of something kind of, it's pretty chaotic.
Yeah, when you say 5 minutes away, like drive, how far? Because the way I envision them being in this cottage on the grounds. So are they? Is it all on the other side of a wall, or?
Is it all on the other side of the wall? I mean, no, actually, to me, what makes Windsor's my favorite castle of all of them, and I thought it would be Kensington Palace, but it's not. Kensington Palace is like in the city, and it's almost like the city almost makes it not as magical because like across the street, there's like, you could get like a kebab, like, you know what I mean? But where in Windsor,
Everybody loves a kebab.
that's true. But at Windsor, it's country. It's like countryside. So you have to take a train to get there. It feels very Harry Potter because as you're on this train, you see this castle getting bigger and bigger. And there are teeny tiny little pubs right outside the castle, and there are guards, but the presence is so not intimidating that you feel like you could just walk up to the castle. I mean, I would never, and then when you're taking the tour, you are literally like a children's soccer field away from where the queen was living and staying at some, during some portions of her life. Like if you had the audacity and you weren't afraid of getting tackled, you could just walk right across that grass. So I've always felt like Windsor was such an intimate place, and they seemed so much more accessible at Windsor, which is why that's my favorite castle. And like I said, when you're one of the last ones there, I made sure I wanted to pee in the castle. Like that was my objective. I wanted to be able to say I peed in Windsor Castle. So I was one of the last people to leave because I was like, yeah, I need to use the restroom. And they stick with you because there are people that live comfortably in that little castle area, and they want to make sure that they scooch everybody out. But it was so just intimate and quiet and beautiful, and I mean, it's a lot of land, and I mean, the likelihood is, I'm sure that you have to go through some barriers that they created to protect the Wales family.